any guests or visitors, nice to see you guys again.
For anyone that didn't come last week, those are my parents in the corner.
Aww.
My dad's my moral compass, and my loving kindness good guy, and yeah, a few other things. Actually, part of my story today is involves something that used to with my dad years ago. Kurt and Mark. They're humans in their own right. Sorry, it's just good.
It's the special corner for parents.
Market.
All right, so let's get started. Pam is going to lead us in an opening meditation.
Thank you for asking me that. And as always, come to a comfortable position. Feel your feet on the ground, or your legs beneath you. Notice your seat in your chair. And build your posture up from the ground, drawing up from the strength of the earth. Stacking the vertebrae one on top of the other. Through the small of the back. The mid back. Up between the shoulder blades. Through the back of the neck. And growing out the crown of the head towards the side. Hands can rest in your lap or on your knees, on your thighs. Your gaze is soft or eyes closed. Release in one time. And settle into the body. Today, just feeling the body. Visualize the air coming in through the nostrils, into the back of the throat, down the chest. Notice the ribcage expanding. Feel the breath in the back of the body. Breath just comes and goes. Following the breath all the way into the belly. Soft belly. And all the way into the pelvic floor. On your exhale, stillness. Breath coming up from the body. Relaxation of the diaphragm. them out. Come back through center, inhale back to the center. Drop your right ear to your right shoulder, sigh it out. Inhale through center. Left ear to the left shoulder, sigh. Sink into the posture. Pick a few head holds, just natural breath. Move slowly through any areas of tension. Be gentle with yourself. One or two, hold one leg, switch directions. Inhale the head back up to center. Inhale the arms up overhead. Reach for the sky. Drop the right hand. Turn. Side bend. Side. Squeeze. Squeeze. And soak. Inhale up through center. Reach the right arm up. Left hand down. Reach for the other side of the shala. Inhale up. And a twist. Reach for the opposite knee. Arm goes back down by that hip. Roll up through center and just twist on an axis. Inhale through center. Other side. Hands down to your heart.
Namaste. We're on a journey through the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, and so we are on step 2 of the Eightfold Path. If you're not familiar with it, it's a wheel. And the reason why there's a wheel by the Eightfold Path is the original idea is how to navigate your ship for a tranquil ride. That's why the old ship imagery is there. And last week we did at the top right view, and today Tana's going to lead us in right intention.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for trusting me with this precious hour of your precious human life. Appreciate it. We're moving into the second, as taught, step of the Eightfold Path. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Dharma wheel. I don't know where people are at in their Dharma knowledge. So, just basic on the Dharma wheel. Before I jump up. The wheel is basically a prescription for the end of suffering. It's, the Buddha taught it for 45 years in many different ways, depending on who he was talking to. And it, in the Western society, we look at something called the Eightfold Path and think it's one after the other after the other. But all of the folds or all of the stations on the wheel are interactive. You work them forward and backward. You might cross right through the spoke, which is represented by some colors, which are signify the Dharma, the Sangha, and the Buddha, which are tempering the way that you take in all of the different stations. And I had an image in my mind last night when I was going over this, that it seems to me that the wheel of Dharma is a lot like the spirograph toy that we used to use as a kid, where every corner touches every corner eventually. It's a little toy, one circle inside of the other, geared together, and every time you take your pen in a hole and start circling, and every time you go around, a gear moves over one, so the circle moves over one, and it starts to make these ellipses, and eventually turn out to be this beautiful design of geometric art with no talent whatsoever involved. It works like that. And it works for me in the Dharma in that eventually each fold of the Dharma will have to be connected back across all of our training in Dharma to each of the others. And what is that cog that makes it jump over and follow a slightly different path each time? And it came to me that is our work on it. That could be at the end is an enlightened being if we do it right. Yeah, me and the spirograph had a moment last night. Thanks, 1970s plastic childhood. The center spoke of the Dharma, the Sangha, and the Buddha. It represents community to me. Community, the source of everything, the Buddha's wisdom, and Sangha is us. And when these steps get chewy for us, when we're having struggles with any of them, we've always got each other to bring it to. We can always check it out with another person. Am I seeing this right? This is super important when we talk about the topic of intention. Intention is chewy. Intention is so important. I mean, every action we take is preceded by a thought. And sometimes this step is actually called right thought. And if we don't manage our humanness, our thoughts will not be right or correct. We've got a whole bunch of conditioning and self-cherishing that we have to battle and squash down in order to really move in a passionate and wise way amongst our fellows. So passing it through other people who perhaps have studied more or just are compassionate enough and you trust them to tell you, you're off your rocker, or you're looking at it wrong. I mean, these are our good friends. These are the people that can really help us with the Dharma. So I think that spoke in the middle, the Sangha, the teaching, and the Buddha is always a place to take anything through any of these steps if we're struggling with the knowledge of it. I'm not very with it, I have to tell you. I'm not very with it. I haven't really slept well in a couple of days. I would hope when I do a talk that I didn't have to look at my notes, but we had a crazy...
I always look at my notes.
Yeah, well, maybe at the end, but no, we had a bit of a crazy week this week, so I wasn't sleeping in my own bed. So anyway, to develop the ability to wisely move through this world, there's things we can do. A little later I'll talk about what Thich Nhat Hanh recommended, but we've all heard that meditation, prayer, and attending Sangha these are things that can help us have right intention. And it's very common for us to have blockages on this sort of thing. So also we're human, and we have to live in these, we need houses and cars and things to work, and we're not all just sitting around being enlightened spiritual beings all the time. We don't have that luxury. So it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of help with intentions. And I actually want to play for you something. The first thing I do every morning when I wake up to help me set my intention is a little prayer. And it's the prayer that the Dalai Lama says every day. So good enough for him, good enough for me, probably.
Today, I'm fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to use all my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I am going to have kind thoughts towards others. I'm not going to get angry or think badly of others. I'm going to benefit others as much as I can.
Pretty good way to start the day. It's like a perspective for us, right? 2 answers for that. I could be wrong. There might be more. But I'm hoping to attain enlightenment at some point. I've had glimpses of that. It's pretty wonderful. Wouldn't mind stretching out the experiences so they start to connect. And harmony in our lifetime. I'm causing no more bad karma, right? This is the way to enlightenment is I don't really know the way to enlightenment. The way to get through this life properly, knowing what I know now, is to cease causing damaging karma and doing the best I can for all my fellow human beings, my fellow animals, and so forth. Cause no harm. How does that happen? Well, this wheel is awfully helpful. Wisdom and compassion are considered to be the wings of Dharma, and if I can develop both of those, wisdom makes me more compassionate can make me more wise, contemplative time spent on the cushion. Eventually, hopefully, I start to think in a way where my intentions and my actions that follow those intentions are meritorious, are ethical, are committed to a virtuous life. And clearly we're human. We're going to fall off the wagon. We're going to get buckets sometimes. We're going to think we're doing right when we're doing wrong. There's so many ways for this not to be a perfect progression forward. But the big picture, the intention, if I manage to get the intention internalized that those are what I want to do with my life, then my little foibles can't really unnerve me. They just are what they are. They're just little mistakes. It's not an indication of my whole being a bad being. My internal intentions, once fully centered in that, it's really hard to knock me off my pin. So, what are our intentions? We look at right view. Right view is also sometimes considered, I want to talk about the word right as well, before we go much further. Because right sounds like something that you can get the right answer and never think about it again. But really, we should maybe consider this as more like wise view, wise intention. Because that's an ever-evolving, never-ending project for our lives. It's the peeling of the onion. Something that maybe a year ago I thought was okay, got more information now. That's not okay now. Or I've become more compassionate through the practice, and what I used to think was no big deal now becomes a big deal. And we can fine-tune this. If we're aware, if we really do have that intention, we will be fine-tuning it to the end. So I just wanted to say that right thing, maybe don't think of it the way we in the West think of right as in correct, the real answer, but more as in wise. Okay, so getting on to intentions. What are intentions? I intend to get an oil change. I intend to fix the hose that's leaking. It's not really a very Buddhist-y. So that's my to-do list. It's not really my intentions. And I intend to go to Duwachin. I intend to go to Vipassana. Is that my intentions? A little closer, but no, not really. These are future things. My true intentions, as it's spoken in this step of the Eightfold Path, has to do with exactly this moment. It's in the moment. It's not something I'll do in the future. It's how I comport myself, how I intend to interrelate with all of the beings on all realms, how I intend to better myself for all beings. And it's definitely in this moment. It's not some goal for the future. It's not my to-do list. It's my to-be list. The prayer that we just listened to, it sounds kind of easy, right? we just make ourselves better, put aside all of our human needs and wants, do everything for everybody else, and make everything perfect. It's not really like that. we gotta live here. We're gonna do all the people things. So, as on top of everything that was said in that prayer, I would also add that my intention are committing to virtue, and committing to compassion, and committing to harmony. How can I create harmony? How can I stop creating conflict? What steps can I take to be just a small wheel in the cog of peace? And the entire Buddhist canon is a recipe for harmony. That is the big goal in this life. We have future goal of enlightenment, but by working towards harmony in this life, it primes us for the big goal of enlightenment. As I was on my way here today, my phone dinged, and I got thought for the day. I get it every day from one from Narcotics Anonymous, one from Alcoholics Anonymous. Most of you know that I'm in the 12-step programs. And the reason Ruthie asked me to do these talks is because she's got someone very close to her in the 12-step programs who reads these things to her, and she always goes, "That's Dharma. That's Dharma." They just talk about those things that pop up on your phone. That's pure Dharma. Today's was so uncannily Dharma. I'd like to share it with you. It's called The Big Picture. Here you go sideways so quickly enough. Sometimes the spiritual experiences take place when we confront something larger than we are. We suspect that forces beyond our understanding are operating. We see a fleeting glimpse of the big picture and find humility in that moment. Our journey through the 12 steps will bring about a spiritual experience of the same nature, only more profound and lasting. We undergo a continual process of ego deflation, while at the same time become more conscious of the larger perspective. Our view of the world expands to the point where we no longer possess an exaggerated sense of our own importance. Through our new awareness, we no longer feel isolated from the rest of the human race. We may not understand why the world is the way it is, or why people sometimes treat one another so savagely, but we do understand suffering, and in recovery, we can do our best to alleviate it. When our individual contributions combined with others, we become an essential part of the grand design. We are connected at last. Chokes me up a little. The harmony that I've been speaking of can only be attained when we're willing to work together, open-mindedly, when we diffuse our egos and start to care about us as a collective more than we care about ourselves as individuals. And I think last time I talked, we touched momentarily on self-cherishing and how this is one of the poisons that we have to overcome. Self-cherishing is evolutionarily, it makes so much sense. I gotta squirrel away my nuts for the winter and damn anybody that wants any of them. So does running around having indiscriminate sex, so does laziness. Like, there's a lot of things that make evolutionary sense that we shouldn't be maybe doing anymore. So self-cherishing, thinking of ourselves more than others, is one of the poisons that we have to learn to come over, or rather overcome. And the setting of intention is one way of doing that, or they're somewhat opposed to one another. Setting good intention and self-cherishing are somewhat opposed to one another. We have to overcome the self-cherishing nature in order to move forward with proper, wise intentions. And that's really hard to do. I mean, we're a competitive group, right? We're like that. I think, well, we did the squirrel and the nuts, and that really covers it, right? Take care of ourselves first. I mean, you get told nobody else is going to look out for you. Look out for yourself. It's a real Western view. It's very hard for us to squash that conditioning down and learn a more cooperative, more harmonizing way. But that's what we're called upon to do. So then we get to what is virtue? Why do we want to be a virtue? Or why do we want to have virtue? Why do we want virtuous intentions? What does it do for us? So the example given is often the same exact action can be virtuous or non-virtuous depending on intent. You may often use the knife of a surgeon to heal versus the knife of an assailant to rob. Same action, cutting you with a knife, with good intention or bad intention. And again, the thought that every action is preceded by intention. So intentions become very important. And it's also a muscle. We are going to have evil thoughts and not act on them, and that's way better than acting on them. But even the evil thoughts are poison to our own growth in the Dharma. So they need to be examined, where they come from and what we can do about them. A lot of that is developing compassion, and a lot of developing of compassion is to diminish self-cherishing. The self-cherishing makes us want to take care of ourselves, do everything for our own benefit. And compassion, when worked upon by opening our hearts and putting ourselves in other people's shoes, we see that they too want safety, they too want happiness, they too want wellness and beauty. And once we can see it through another person's eyes, we realize that the idea that I'm any better than anyone else just can't be true. Because if that person thought the same thing, those two truths can't coexist. Hence, we're right-sizing ourselves. We're not thinking less of ourselves, we're thinking of ourselves less. So then we get into what about intentions that are mixed. Our motives that are mixed. I want to do good. I want to do good in this world. Somewhere back here, my ego also wants to be seen to be doing good. What is that? It's our good intention. This is the mixed motive problem. And the suggestion, right on back to the Buddha, go easy on ourselves in that place. That even recognizing that our motives may be mixed is a step away from ignorance and delusion, is a step towards not being able to be whipsawed around by those two, and a step towards becoming more wise, becoming more compassionate, and perhaps next time we do our good thing, it will be more about the good thing and less about being seen to be doing the good thing. But it's a muscle that we work it, and it pops up. We tend to feel better about every time we're a little stronger in that. When I went to treatment, I went to a working farm with animals for street kids, full of tough little ruffian street kids. I think there was 16 of us or 18 of us in there. And we had to do a thing every day where we did a good deed for somebody else, and if anybody else found out about it, it didn't count. We had to figure out something else. Which led to the most funniest scenario. We had these like pierced, tattooed, like tough little kids running around making each other's beds, or doing each other's chores, and hiding behind walls and giggling about watching the person find the chore already done. We had nothing to give to one another. This was our main thing, was being able to take on each other's chores. But if you got caught, it didn't count. So it was a lot of sneaking around doing good stuff. And it did things. It changed our neuroplasticity. It made us realize that we can't get high on drugs and alcohol anymore, but we can get high on doing for others. There's a buzz to that. There's no payoff. There's no hangover. There's no price you have to pay. It's a beautiful buzz. The joy of helping another. And thank goodness, with the age group that we were, like we put that into our brains as teenagers and early 20s. It was the ripple effect of that has got to be profound. Like what all of us over the course of the years, all the kids that went through there doing that practice. Just imagine what we did out there in the world after that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then sometimes there's great intentions, and the intentions are, upon examination, not the best. Then what? I honestly think I was in our school last year. I really do. And I'm pretty sure by next year I'll think this Tana is in our school as well. Because as we learn and grow, we move through our, what we think is right. The story I told you about my parents. When I was a kid, I was I think I was out of the house, but my parents had one boy, and they thought about adopting another boy. As company for my brother. And they had, many privileges and, a beautiful life. Food on the table, shelter, security. Why not share it with somebody that needed it? And there was the thought that we were going to adopt an Indigenous kid. Because little white kids get adopted right away, babies get adopted right away. We'll adopt an older kid, be Indigenous. That was about 45 years ago. Through the lens of all this time, through the reading that we've done, through the rise of cultural awarenesses, it was not a good thing to do. It was the intentions were beautiful. The intentions were absolutely pure and beautiful. But through the lens of colonialism, through the lens of the 60s group, which actually lasted till the 90s, like, we could have been implicit in something that's really frowned upon now, despite the best of intentions. So, in Buddhism, our intentions we're judged on our intentions. Go ahead, do that good thing. Don't let it stop you. But sometimes we do have to refrain and realize that as we grow that things will take longer. And we go easy on ourselves. The Buddha's message on some of this mixed motive thing is that a light intention, a bright intention will lead to a bright action. And a dark intention will lead to dark action. And bright and dark mixed intentions will lead to bright and dark actions. That we are not fully enlightened people, and that we cannot expect to have fully enlightened actions or intentions. That would be a form of delusion that needs to be worked through. Until we are fully enlightened, we will always be making mistakes. And that we should never let that stop us. In more recent terms, the phrase, don't let the imperfect stand in the way of the good, comes to mind. We should set our intentions to be as helpful as possible, and then we'll lead out meditation piece, because only through deep contemplation are we really going to have the insight to be able to make these really strong decisions about what is the best path forward. We get into that in the other folds of the wheel, when it gets the right concentration, which is, when the spirograph gets over there, it's going to be dragging back right concentration back to intention setting, and we do gain wisdom the more time we spend on the cushion, the more time we sit with our teachers and our written learning, and in places like this. I made a little chart. This is the three that we talked about, the right intention. The three that they would like to see the Dharma touch upon. There's many, many right intentions. But, hi.
Do you want me to hold it?
Sure.
Okay.
We've talked many times about harmfulness. We've talked about attachment, and we've talked about ill will. If we can run each of our intentions through this checklist, we'll talk about renunciation a little bit bigger in case you don't really understand that. We're not nuns and monks. We don't have to renounce all of our belongings or marriage or anything like that. We try to renounce attachment to things, attachment to outcomes. things that make us unhappy by being attached to them. That's a whole other topic. But the ill will, unhealthy desire, I think is probably the easiest way to sum it up, and harmfulness. If we can put our intentions through that to try and avoid those and try and cultivate these, we're going to have a pretty good start on the intention portion of the wisdom path. And one more time. Just the wings of the Dharma, it's called. Compassion and wisdom, and how they interrelate. That with compassion, we gain more wisdom. With wisdom, we can gain more compassion. And that most of this insight is given to us on the cushion. This is where we open our heart, this is where we open our mind. And I am one to harp a lot on a meditation practice. I don't really like to too prescriptive, but I will say, like, the Dharmas are the original listicle people, right? The Buddhists were like about 37 perfections and 3 paramitas and 4 noble truths, and right?
Bunch of numbers.
Bunch of numbers. A lot of listicles. And it kept me from getting into it when I was first learning. I turned away many times. I'd go to some sanghas and then go, oh Lord, this is worse than the 47 kinds of Baptists in like small town Oklahoma. I put this small little, it's just like too much stuff. Simplify. And many of you know I finally got a practice from a mindfulness-based stress reduction course, which took all of that out of it. It became a secular way to learn to meditate, and in a crazy way it brought me back into the Dharma. By meditation piece was so important, but I just couldn't even get there. I was too distracted by the listicles. So this one's pretty simple. Compassion begets wisdom, wisdom begets compassion, and I think passing it through your teachers, your readings, your relationship with your cushion, and the Buddha is the best way to sort of fire that up for yourself. I know, also, every time I left Buddhism, it was good. But I have to say that there's an overarching perfectionism of perfectness of when you come to the Dharma, that when the seeds are planted, who knows when they will blossom, that possibly the people in here will walk away, never come back, but the next life, there'll be something of this in them that it will blossom later. So there's, intention is also really in our lifetime, but it's also flowing forward, possibly 1,000 lifetimes. Because there's no wrong time to get started, and there's no wrong time to reboot, to recommit, to sit there and basically come back. Yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that. So I'm going to move on. Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to move on to something called the bliss of blamelessness, which is one of the, I don't even think the Buddha taught it. I think it was taught like 400 years after the Buddha. And it was about the feeling tone that we get when we're doing nothing wrong. Well, we're humans and we're all sinners, so of course we're always doing something wrong. But this is about being as blameless as possible, which means setting meritorious intention and follow through. Actions can't, or intention, good intention followed by maladaptive behaviors, see good and bad, because who's judging all that? But unskillful behaviors followed by skillful intention doesn't really get us very far. It's also the commitment to doing the intentions. So we look at things like values and integrity, our moral compass, our standards, our ideals. This goes by a lot of names, the way we want to, or what we're thinking, the way we see it and what we intend. And this leads to things like our conduct, our comportment, our manners, our policies, how we, and that's on an individual level, but then you flow it out, and some of this becomes etiquette. Some of it becomes our laws. Some of it becomes the way things are done around here. Some of it becomes Sangha rules or village rules or AA steps or things like that. So it's about watching our intentions grow and develop and what do they turn into. Because our actions, so it's very important to get it right, but it's also very important to stand steadfast in our intentions as we start acting. Because there's so many things acting against us, including the mind that wants what it wants. So, I mean, we start working from our heart, instead of our mind, we've got a pretty good impetus of getting it right. And I don't think I have much more.
Can I add Ruthie's comment
Oh,
now?
please do.
It's right. I was hoping that you get to
Sure.
the follow through of intentions. Because she said, so bring up to the group the Western phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I'm seeing this as a Western Buddha group. You know, most of us have heard that kind of idea. And what you just talked about really fits with that good intentions need follow through. And I don't know if she at some point wanted the group to talk about that idea, but I do know from all of my work and all of my experiences in life that I have to be careful what I say I'm going to do. Because if my intention is to do that, then I need to follow through. So I'm careful about what I say yes to. And I'm also careful when people are asking things of me or I'm asking things of me to be okay with, I'm not sure right now. Or, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or no, I shouldn't do that. And that whole idea of being very careful what words you put to your intentions, because they're useless unless there's follow through. The real follow through. In parenting, they call this reliability. What you say, you do. You can say, I'm going to punish you, Johnny. But if you never punish Johnny, why did you say the words? The words are meaningless, and now you become unreliable. And so this is, in all the areas of life, that's at least my thought. Do you have anything to add to that about the road of?
We're going to get to right action along this wheel in no time at all, right?
Absolutely.
So that's, it definitely has some crossover.
Yeah, those two are very much linked. Right action is, oh, that's next week by me. Okay, so, quiet for
Jeff,
today.
could I happened to be at Ruthie's when Jeff called her. Do you want to share the little story she told?
You can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So she said, I have a story for you, Jeff. When I was little, we had a swimming pool. And every time the kids got into the swimming pool, our dog, was probably a lab, jumped in the pool to try to save us. Because we thought we were drowning. And I thought, that's perfect. The dog has these good intentions, but it's not turning out well. And she would have to fight the dog in the pool. So.
Yeah, and so it was hellish. She actually said the dog almost drowned her any number of times. and so I forget exactly what her point was.
Well, because the dog had good intentions.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out well, right? Or wisely, or whatever word you want to use,
Kenny, do you want to ask people for input, or do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Is anyone got any thoughts?
The thoughts as about this.
I want to say I am so not with it that I may, if you ask me a question, tell you that I'm going to look it up and get back to it.
I also got my notes from my talks in the past about right intentions. So, there might be more material. Maybe I'll go to it next week.
I would like to say that I cribbed heavily from a lady named Patricia Ullman. Do you know her, Pam? No, she's large. She's so good. I have not read her whole book. I found her input on this topic, and I was like, oh, I gotta order this book. It's called 8 Steps to an Authentic Life, and they give you one chapter free, and it was just so amazing, really, really amazing. Written in our language. I'm a big follower of Western teachers because, like the list goes, I just don't get a lot of the, when it's all in Sanskrit and Pali, and like, why? Like, it just, I have ADD, I have to clear out all the excess stuff for it to speak to me. But she's really spot on, very forward. And then another guy that is amazing, Philip Moffat. He's used to be the editor of Esquire, top of his game, like a really swinging dick in the publishing business, quit everything, went and lived in a monastery. And he's one of the most really beautifully written guides, and his thing is called dharmawisdom.org. Dozens of articles on there by him, including a lot of podcasts live with him speaking from sanghas around the world with his teacher, who's a Forest Mountain Himalayan guy. So pretty interesting school. And if anyone wants to listen,
Do you want to
on the
we
chat
can,
later.
yeah, we can put it on that Dharma chat, those couple of resources. Comments, questions, thoughts?
There's something that teaching that I received just led me that. In the teaching, when somebody is coming up with a moment where they're indecisive and they're looking to move forward with something, and part of the space that is held, in this particular case by me, but is to say to that person, I've lived 1,000 lifetimes. I've lived 1,000 lifetimes, and I've had all of the experience in that 1,000 lifetimes. In all of those lifetimes, I've collected a body of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and the ability to sit here, because maybe for all of those 1,000 lifetimes, it's so that I could be with you here right now. That is my purpose in this moment, to cultivate all of that energy in this moment. What is the intention you would like to do with that? And when somebody has the realization that somebody has lived their entire soul existence for the purpose of that particular moment, the intention becomes incredibly powerful.
Beautiful.
Does it make them easier to decide what to do?
After tears, yes.
I would think.
Well, because it clears
Yeah.
away the distraction and
Right.
the distortions and the stories, and it comes down to the purity of what it is, what they really, really want to do, which is the power of the intention. And it takes some practice at times, but if you have somebody who's willing, which is what the Sangha is and the Dharma is, and the hub of the wheel, it's that ability to recognize that there is somebody sitting in front of you who is prepared to be there with you for that decision, to make the best possible decision ever, because you may not have all of the clarity that you would like to make that decision.
Yeah, and AA, it's a real common thing for your sponsors. I run it up the flagpole with another drunk. Right? Whatever you're thinking, check it out with another human. Is my thinking correct here? Am I delusional? Is this the way forward? Because we are so whipsawed by emotion and delusion that we often don't have clarity. And somebody that loves us will just say, "Rock, rock." That needs to be said.
The one challenge for men is that we tend, as men, not to collaborate. We make decisions, we go solo, we ride off on our horse and make decisions. And this is talking about a very different motive. It's not that we're part of something bigger than us, and there's wisdom to be gained through riding with a few other horses.
To your point, when we take people in the water with the dolphins,
Yeah.
we don't necessarily watch the women.
You don't necessarily what?
Watch the women. We watch the men, because the women call for help.
Yeah, it's part of our training. So then we have to be untrained. Then we have to retrain ourselves into being collaborative. There's more wisdom in. I always feel like one of the things when we come here, there's wisdom in the room. It's not just what we put together to present to you. The wisdom is all here. And so if we can tap into that, now we've come to a very rounded, beautiful, because we can correct each other. One of the reasons why we talk at the end of these groups is that sometimes by that talking we come to a Sangha decision rather than just plan our agenda or whatever. Other comments?
Yeah, Tana, at the beginning, you were talking about like our ego, us being our ego self. And then right when you finished, you said, we're not thinking less of ourselves, we're thinking less about ourselves. And I thought, yeah, that's what I was, because it was sort of sounding like, not valuing ourselves.
Right.
No, we do value and love ourselves, but we're not self-absorbed. Preoccupied with only our well-being. I think that's important to have that inner value, because so many don't have that, and that's part of the problem, is not valuing themselves.
The Buddhist path is very interesting, away from ego, toward this process of movement towards including others, and then there's a third path, and that is the bodhicitta path, where you have now given your life for the service of others. That's the full road to enlightenment. There.
All your lives.
Yeah, all your lives. And so at that point, we're on a journey down that road. And if you're one step down the road, good for you. If you're 14 steps down the road, good for you. The journey is the important thing, not the destination.
And so many times I feel like Western psychology and Buddhism are hand in hand and really complement each other. I think there's places where they're divergent, very divergent. And some of that is in the self-cherishing. It's like, processing emotions, for instance. I don't think there's a Buddhist equivalent for processing emotions. It's just be more skillful. If that emotion is harming you, pick a more skillful emotion to be. Living through, I've had a lot of different kinds of therapy, so I shouldn't really paint it with such a wide brush, actually. But a lot of times, like, in the West, we can wallow in stuff. We can wallow in unhealthy emotions, and we give them energy by staying there with that. We're like victimizing ourselves again and again by, staying in that emotion where maybe it's time to just move on. And in Buddhism, there's a path to move to the next step. Just, and a lot of it is stop thinking less of yourself and start thinking of yourself less. It kind of sums it up. It's like maybe go help somebody else. Maybe figure out what your job is in the community. And AA, our sponsor, told us to go help another drunk and get over yourself.
Well, that's why the 11 steps of AA are about self-work. And the 12th step is now being to what you have gained through this experience, now being to someone else. So that they do the full circle, and it just circles around to the end with the 12th step. It's beautiful.
And also, we worship these people with big egos. Like they're the kings of capitals of industry, and it's the thing we look up to in our society. And in the Eastern society, those people are not as revered, shall we say. They're, considered blowhards and buffoons, right? People that are working slightly under the radar within their community quietly are more appreciated in the Eastern society. And somebody that is sort of self-aggrandizing would be shunned in those societies.
The more that China becomes capitalized, capitalism, the more and more these figures are elevated above, and then the elders who are really traditionally are to be revered are put in their place. So,
Buddhism is illegal in China.
yes.
Yeah. What'd you say? Buddhism's illegal in China. Illegal. Religion's illegal in China. It's a communist country. Yeah.
And yet they're claiming that the next Dalai Lama will be coming from China.
A little bit of grandizing. Yeah.
The Chinese are claiming that?
Oh,
And he's gonna swear off Buddhism and embrace communism? Is that the thought?
Yeah. It's not even communism anymore, right? It's capital communism now.
No,
Yeah.
it is. It's very capitalistic.
It's very kind of different.
Can't beat them, have them join them.
Well, is he gonna declare who it is then?
It's probably going to be him.
It evolves. It evolves. The person hears. You don't get to choose them.
Well, but he might
Comes
not
back
choose
to
them.
helping people.
Yeah.
One of the things they say that can be really useful is whatever you feel you need, give it to somebody else, and then you automatically have it. Because you actually have it within you, and if you're trying to offer it to someone else, it shows up.
Right. And I've experienced that in my own life, right? It's like lowering your fear of not having enough by giving something away is an amazing, amazing tool. An amazing tool. And like the last thing I was super attached to. Okay, I'll preface this by back when I was in treatment and when you did good deeds, you shut up about it. I don't like to much say anything that I did that was sort of good deedish. But I did give away my Dyson vacuum cleaner. I was too attached. I was way too attached to that thing. And my friend has a solar system. He's like, I can never vacuum because my solar system won't handle my vacuum cleaner when I plug it in. I'm like, there's my sign. There's my sign. He needs to have my Dyson vacuum cleaner. The cordless one, right? And you know, it's given me more pleasure to think of him vacuuming with that than it ever gave me to use it myself. And that's just, it's as silly as it is. It's an example of that. I love that thing so much. When the cleaners used it, I was like watching it if they didn't, misuse it. Like, you love a vacuum cleaner. Stop it. Stop it. Not very Buddhisty.
That's huge, though. That's a huge thing you did.
He's enjoying it. It's Richard.
Say, can I end with the typical Buddhist story about intentions? So, and some of you who've been here know this story, but I see that there are people who probably haven't, so it's worth repeating. So there's a grandfather and a grandson, a wise grandfather and a grandson, walking along a path, and in front of them, in front of them on the path goes a wolf, and the wolf passes by, and they continue walking, the grandfather and grandson. And the grandfather realized that there had been a teachable moment, and so the grandfather says to the grandson, there's a good wolf and a bad wolf in each of us. And they just keep walking down the path. So the grandson is thinking about what the grandfather said, and so he stops the grandfather and he goes, so which one wins? And the wise grandfather says, the one you feed. And I think that's how you get to these purer intentions and the purer follow through. And that if you continue to feed the goodness, the compassion, the loving kindness of living in the moment. Does that fit?
Oh, totally.
It's a simple story. But that's our challenge, is to feed the good wolf. Because that's our Buddha nature. That's our origin.
That's the long one that was here last time in that context.
Yeah.
And I said, if I'm in a state of complete equanimity and balance, and I am neutral and at peace, then there's really nothing happening. But the minute I do something, the minute I move forward in doing something, I'm either doing that from lack or out of the need of lack or a need of desire. So the actual intention is flawed. To which he said, correct. And I said, so what? And he said, well, it depends what you put your energy into. Equanimity would be a good thing, or cheating would be a good thing. At least you're putting your energy into something that is benefiting all.
being human.
Yeah.
You can't really make any move that is not aversion or attraction. Every single thing we do, every impulse that we have is because we want to do something or get away from something. So, welcome to humanity.
Yeah. And it's pretty hard to get to selfless intention. You know, where we're not looking to get something back. But that's not the path that leads us towards being more enlightened. That's our dilemma. The two wolves. Should we do a loving kindness?
Let's do that.
Thank you,
It's
Jared.
really good. I like this.
Mark's going to lead us in a loving kindness meditation.
So, pretty sure that everybody here has done it. So, for now, you're just settling into your breath. And by settling into breath, you're just letting your shoulders relax. You're letting your breath be whatever it is, without prescription or command or demand. Just noticing. And you're getting comfortable. As Pam says, you're balanced in your sit bones. You're connected. And as you do so, you may feel your breath coming up and your shoulders rise slightly, your rib cage opens, and as you exhale, you relax even more easily. And we're going to, of course, do loving kindness metta for 5 people ourselves, for somebody that we love, for somebody that we barely even know, for somebody that we're in conflict with or we're having a difference of opinion, and then, of course, for the entire universe. And so we lower our eyes and take a deep breath. And we see ourselves before ourselves. Notice that you in all of its glories and its mistakes. And you say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live in ease and grace and a state of equanimity. May you be happy. We turn our attention now to someone, the first person that comes to your mind when you think of love. Beautiful love. And you see that person before you. And to them you say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you have a life filled with ease and grace, equanimity, and may you be happy. To that person that you barely know, you see them, they're before you, and again you repeat, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you be full of ease and grace and a state of equanimity. And may you be happy. To the person of conflict, take a deep breath and let go of the stories. And see that person before you as someone just like you, someone doing their very best with all that they know. Every decision they make is at the best level of their ability to make a decision. And to them you say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live a life of ease and grace and a state of equanimity. If you'd like to put your hands over your heart and be comfortable the way that you are, your mind is unable to grasp the enormity of every consciousness or sentient being in the entire universe. And yet you will speak to it all by saying, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you be full of ease and grace and a state of equanimity. May you be happy.
So we end our sessions with this little prayer on this sheet up there. Most of us know it. Sometimes I fumble through it, but this is a Unitarian benediction, kind of, but it certainly fits with the Dharma. So let's say this together. Go in peace.
Go making peace, living gently, loving mightily, and bowing to the mysteries.